Even though I've already made a video on the Hexen Circle before, I thought Nicole deserves her own video, all to herself as well. After all, there's a lot to say about her, and the history of angels is pretty interesting. So in this video, I'll be going more deeply into the angel race and their history. This history is pretty important to understanding Nicole's character and the part she plays in the game now. Let's get into it. The angel race. After the heavenly principles seized power in Tevat and reshaped the rules of the world, they eventually created angels. These angels had the purpose to guide humanity, answer their questions, and love them unconditionally. But they were not allowed to answer every question. Certain secrets that had to be protected from humanity were also kept by the angels. This made it so nobody could doubt the heavenly principles or pursue forbidden knowledge. The heavenly principles blessed the angels with knowledge and power, practically placing them amongst the most powerful beings in Tevat. The people of ancient civilizations such as Hyperborea and Longon worshipped these heavenly envoys and trusted them to guide them in the right direction. But when the heavenly principles started dropping celestial nails upon Tevat, like in Salvindanir, many people's trust wavered, and they were afraid that they were on the wrong path. They questioned how omnipotent their ruler really was. Still, the angels had to uphold the people's trust, and many things, even misfortunes, were attributed to fate. However, one angel began to see things differently: Koitar. She is considered the first celestial angel, also nicknamed the Princess of the Morning Star or Goddess of the Dawn Star. Koitar's change in beliefs all started when she met a voyager from beyond Tevat. This voyager, Soitervoinen, had the ability to traverse the cosmos with her sentient will. Soitervoinen had met Nibelung before the heavenly principles took over Tevat, and seemingly became interested in Nibelung's strong will out of both curiosity and sympathy. She witnessed how dedicated Nibelung was and asked him to travel alongside her, but he refused, as his people were more important to him. The next time Soitervoinen returned to Tevat, Nibelung was gone, and the heavenly principles had already established a new order and created the angels. That's when she placed her sentient will into a male body with star-shaped pupils and snuck into Hyperborea. Soitervoinen then questioned the laws the heavenly principles had established, like the sin of pursuing knowledge. After asking the people of Hyperborea about this, they asked him to pose these same questions to Koitar. So Soitervoinen traveled to the Irminsul tree in the domain where Koitar rested, and opened her eyes to possibilities she would never have dared to imagine before. In Soitervoinen's eyes, Koitar saw a future where people could be free from the rules set up by the heavenly principles, and free from the shackles of fate. Koitar and Soitervoinen fell in love and decided to rebel against the heavenly principles. They wanted to create a world where people were free to pursue knowledge and were not subjected to whatever order the heavenly principles decided. A world where sorrow, death, and pain did not exist, and where humans and gods were equal. This all kind of coincided with Nibelung's return and the war of funerary flame he started against the heavenly principles. However, the heavenly principles won this war, and both Nibelung and Koitar failed with their own plans. But unlike Nibelung, who was killed, Koitar got punished instead. Not only was she cursed to forget Soitervoinen and everything about her life, but all the other angels got punished too. I mentioned before that the angels had knowledge and power, but all of this got taken away after Koitar's betrayal. It is said that angels would lose their beauty and minds if they offered their love to one person, when they are supposed to love all of humanity equally and unconditionally. If this happened, the angel was to turn into a Seelie. But Nicole also tells us that all the other angels had to choose between either power or wisdom. The angels that chose power turned into monsters, like the dragon Ursa, while the angels who chose wisdom were also turned into Seelies. However, it seems that not all former angels lost everything, and Nicole is one of them. Remnants of Angelicism. So, angels still exist in Tevat, but most of them took a completely different form. Once a powerful race, they're now reduced to these little creatures that can only guide humans to treasure, and in return can go back to their Seelie court, which signifies the end of their quest of guidance. This urge to guide is one of the only traits that Seelies kept from their existence as an angel. Even Nicole, who's not a Seelie, loves to guide humans to treasure, often using riddles and metaphors to lead them there. Even so, Nicole is very different to other angels, and she obviously did not turn into a Seelie, but I'll go into that more later on. For now, let's discuss how Nicole is still similar to angels and Seelies and how she's connected to them. So first, Nicole's hobbies. Nicole seems very interested in humans and, like I said, loves to guide them to treasure. But that's not the only guidance Nicole gives. In fact, she also loves to give them what I would call spiritual guidance. The best example of this is how she guided Kale in the 6.6 Archon quest and helped her understand that God remains inside of her. Nicole realized that Kale was carrying Nabu Malikata's remains within her the moment she met her, but was worried about telling her. This shows that Nicole truly just wants to guide people to understand themselves, rather than forcing them to do so. She made sure Kale was actually ready to hear it and then gently guided her to discover the truth. In the end, she states that one of her wishes is to help guide the people she meets towards happiness, which includes both Kale and Lilupar. Another one of her hobbies has to do with stories. Not only does she try her best to remember the histories of foregone civilizations, she also loves to think of her own fictional stories. That brings me to one of her friends, namely Mr. 9. Since Nicole is usually too lazy to write her stories down, she has Mr. 9 indwell into inspired authors while they sleep, making them write down the story for her. But what's important about this is that Mr. 9 is actually a Seelie and thus a former angel. Yet, Mr. 9 seems to be able to talk and understand Nicole, despite other Seelies not showing many cognitive abilities. It's not clear what is causing this, but it seems that Nicole's influence is able to give Seelies back parts of what they've lost, such as their voice and cognition. Then, lastly, in her Witch's Homework quest, Nicole is able to teleport using Seelie cords, which she says are connected through ley lines. She kind of plays it off by saying nobody else uses them, but I'm pretty sure the phrase can be changed to nobody else is able to use them. We've never met anyone else who is able to do this, and even the Archons don't seem to be able to. This shows that Nicole is still tightly connected to Seelies, despite everything that happened, and despite that she kept her human form. Defiance of the Heavens. Unlike the Seelies, Nicole has a human form, and she's also still immensely powerful. The reason for this is quite interesting, but it did come at a cost for Nicole. So, as I briefly mentioned before, the angels had to choose between power and wisdom. However, Nicole decided she wanted to keep both, so she decided to kind of bend the rules. Rather than giving up either her wisdom or power, Nicole bypassed the rules and gave up something else, her voice. This way, she was able to keep her chosen form, power, and her knowledge, just at the cost of her voice. Yet, Nicole is still able to communicate as she can now speak into people's minds. But from the description of Nicole's weapon, Angelos' heptates, it seems that it was not Nicole's will alone that allowed her to do this. The description basically says that Nicole is the youngest angel, and that she was well loved by everyone. While Koitar got punished, Nicole was hidden away. It's implied that she was basically protected by Nabu Malikata, the goddess of flowers, along with Sibila, who was basically the divine envoy of ancient Fontaine. These two wanted to protect Nicole's innocence, shielding her from death and violence. Although it's not entirely clear why Nicole was able to bypass the rules of the heavenly principles, I believe that the blessings of Nabu Malikata and Sibila certainly played a role in it. Another interesting thing about Nicole is that she was able to speak the name of the heavenly principles. Nicole's teacher shows how she gave up her voice in order to keep her powers, but in the end, after losing her voice, she says the name Phanes. This shows that, now that Nicole can only speak into people's minds, she might be able to get away with more things. I think that's especially exemplified in the fact that Nicole spoke to the Traveler during both the Sumeru Samsara and the Fontaine Archon quest. In Sumeru's case talking about the Irminsul, and in Fontaine's case about the prophecy and fate. Traveler is one of the only people who has seen both things up close, and is also free from fate. Plus, the Irminsul impacts them differently since they're from beyond Tevat. Nicole is able to speak to Traveler about this precisely because she's doing it in their mind. Nowadays, Nicole is of course a member of the Hexen Circle under the codename N. She met Alice right after the angels got punished, and you can imagine that she was pretty lonely at the time. Even so, she did not immediately want to join the Hexen Circle. Instead, Alice invited her to sit in on one of the tea parties, but she was not allowed to speak. After listening to the conversation of the other witches, Nicole became extremely curious about all of them and wanted to share her knowledge with them. That is what eventually convinced her to join, and now she works together with them to protect the people of Tevat. It's apparent in a lot of things that Nicole does that she's no longer particularly loyal to the heavenly principles, but I think the fact that she's in the Hexen Circle is her most interesting act of defiance. That's mostly because of the other members like Octavia, Rheindotter, Barbeloth, and Anya. Octavia travels to different worlds, kind of similar to Zoetervoinen. Rheindotter created life and even merged with the Shade of Life. Barbeloth is able to read fate, and Andersdatter even defied it with Durin. I've always kind of wondered what side the Hexen Circle is really on, since Alice does protect the borders of the Vat. Still, that doesn't necessarily mean Alice is doing that in service of the heavenly principles. Regardless, Nicole's position in the Hexen Circle is really interesting, and she's defying the heavens in more ways than one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think about Nicole, or especially if you have any theories. Bye bye!